not have to go back and check your answers, but I feel for you, so I'll record it for us. Okay, so in our app design, the first thing you need to do is to decide which app you're going to use, identify what your issues are, and then start brainstorming how you're going to fix or address those different issues that you are seeing. Okay, now usually what I like to do at this point, because usually the brainstorming is a really big overshot. Okay, it's kind of like shooting with a shotgun. You're going to have like 50 different possibilities, and now we need to hone it into the few that are really going to make it work. A couple reasons why we do this. Number one, you don't have a year and a half to work on this app redesign. Okay, so you can't do like 15, 20 different things to the app redesign unless they're all manageable. You need to make sure that you are picking a couple that you'll be able to work on, that you will be able to get done in a timely fashion, and that will have a big enough effect that it will change the presentation of the app. Okay. So you want to make sure that you, what I'll say, filter out the redesigns you want to focus on. Okay, filter out the redesign. Once you get gotten those filtered out, whether you have 4 adjustments you want to make or whether you have 12 adjustments you want to make, then it comes to the time where you start delegating. Now, this is where a conversation with your group is going to be really, really important. Okay, you need to figure out what the strengths are in your team. If you have someone on your team that's a really good illustrator, then maybe delegate all of the illustration redesigns to that person. If you have somebody else who's really talented with setting up color schemes, and you really like some of the stuff that they've done in the past, oh my gosh, you were really great at your ideas and how creative you were with your tutorial project that you did. Kind of being pushed that way. Someone who's really talented in typography and likes working with typography and layouts, maybe they'll work on redesigning the layout of the app. But start delegating, because for a couple reasons. Number one, this is going to be a big enough project that you can't have one person do all of it. The second reason is it's important to make sure that everybody has a piece of this so you can come together and learn how important it is to actually delegate. This is one of my biggest issues I have as a professional right now. Like for coaching, I have a really hard time delegating stuff because I don't trust other people's opinion on how to do it because I know the right way to do it, right? And some of you have that same issue with things. So it's really important to figure out how within your group you have who can handle which thing. You will eventually report back to me and tell me, okay, let's see, what Lydia's handling this part, Jason's handling this part, Elodie's doing this, and Lewis is doing this. Okay. While that's happening, you're going to have to make sure that you're sharing stuff. So delegate, but then you have to make sure that you're sharing as well. I put that as a little like an under subject of that. Okay. Sharing ideas, sharing information. If Jason says, hey, I want to change this way, and his 3 teammates are like, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, it's 3 against 1, Jason. You got to suck it up. Like, okay, we'll move on. Unless you can say, I really think we should do this because it can convince people. That's part of working in a group. Okay. Also sharing your work as you're going. So again, using that same group, if Elodie is in charge of selecting colors, she needs to make sure that if Lydia is doing the illustration, that Elodie goes, okay, Lydia, here are our Pantones, and gives them to everybody. So when we're selecting type, when we're selecting images, we're adjusting our colors and stuff, we're all in the same Pantone. Because you don't want to come together at the end and have all these slides look different because the colors are off. So again, it's the final presentation needs to be like one person. Okay. Let's see. We have delegating, we have sharing. Okay. As we start getting towards the end, after our redesigns are made, then we're going to get into what is in my notes that I'm writing here, kind of step 6, is building the presentation. Okay. It's super simple for you guys nowadays with Google Slides. Just build a Google slide, share it with everybody. We're going to go through a past team's project today. So I'll show you kind of what it looks like. I couldn't find the really good ones that I had, but I don't want you to kind of steal their ideas anyways. So we're going to go through one that was pretty solid. There's some mistakes that I want to address. But building your presentation, here's the challenge. This isn't you in your AP Hug class or your history class going, this is a presentation on Greek architecture. The Greeks first started in 400 BC. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be that. It's going to be, you're selling this. Like, you need to act. You need to be exuberant. You need to be able to talk. And if you aren't able to talk, if you aren't able to kind of be involved in that way, then I want you to be the madman behind the screens doing all of the tinkering and building. That's totally fine. Some of you are not up front in front of the group of people. You don't like group presentations. You don't like speaking. You don't like having that part. So instead, what happens is, let me see another group. Let's say Ethan, Nicole, and Huey, okay? Ethan is the speaker in the group, okay? So maybe him and Nicole might say something, but Huey's done his part to really build up the rest of the presentation. So make sure that we're all working. Does that make sense? Well, clear in that sense, okay? But whoever's doing the presentation needs to be killing it. The presentation has to come across like, oh my gosh, these guys totally know what they're doing, okay? In our presentation, I'm giving you guys 5 minutes to present to us. 5 minutes to give a pitch, because we got 15 other people coming through, 15 other companies coming through and pitching to us the same ideas you have. So you got to win us over in 5 minutes. If you go over that 5 minutes, it's going to be an issue, okay? Because we got to make sure we got the next person coming in. But if you wrap the whole thing up in 2 minutes, it's not going to be impressive at all, and we're going to be on our way. Okay, so it's going to take some practice. You have to some time working through it. You might have to consolidate a frame or two. You might have to add a couple more frames. That's something that we're going to work through in this whole group process, okay? And then obviously after you build the presentation, you put it all together, then we're going to have the actual presentation, okay? You're going to present your project. In the past, we've done a class presentation where you're up in front of the class, you dress nice, the whole deal. We'll probably do the same thing, only you have to dress nice in your top half because we'll be on the screen. And then we will probably still do a full group presentation where, you know, your group, Paige, Taya, Cora, the three of you are alternating between who's saying what. Maybe one of you is driving the Google Slides, and then we're all watching the rest of the presentation. Okay? And then at that point, we will give feedback to what app design we feel was the most successful. You got to have your critique in it. Okay, got to have your critique. It'll be which app design we all feel as a group is the most successful. We'll go through and judge them. It is a competition because you're trying to get a contract out of this, right? So I really appreciate this change. I thought this was a great idea. I'm sorry, going back to the strengths thing too. You have the ability to experiment more than we ever have in the past. 2 years ago, the first time we did this, we had a group of 4 girls do Duolingo as their app that they were rebuilding, the language app. And they got through the design and stuff pretty quick, got to their fixes. And one of the girls was really adamant on the fact that the app itself was pretty boring. Like, it was there, but there wasn't anything to like kind of catch your attention. And so what she did was she went through in like 4 days and learned Adobe Animate, and then loaded Adobe Animate and made these little interactive Duolingo owls. Like, one was juggling, one was sleeping, one was running. And so she actually animated them and said, so when you're loading something or you answer something correctly, the owl gives an exclamation point and goes, "Yay!" If you answer something incorrectly, it like frowns, and so she had like all these little animations, which is really cool. She didn't do a lot in terms of the layout and the text and stuff, but another girl was totally into that. So she decided to add her piece, which was creating these little animations, and it worked out really, really awesome. Okay. So feel free to explore a little bit, as long as it doesn't stretch out your project and put your entire group at a deficit. If that makes sense. Okay. Okay. Things that I may have missed as we get into this from my past folks. Ryan, Aisha, and Sydney, same exact thing you guys are doing. You're just going through how to develop an entire brand. So like I said, if you get a company, don't do like, I would say don't do like Supreme, like something like that, right? Like do like a company, like an airline, U.S. Postal Service, actual like a big store like Apple or something big where you're gonna have storefronts, you're gonna have cars, you're gonna have clothes, you're gonna have a whole full rebrand. I don't necessarily want to put handcuffs on you and say do an airline, but in that I want you to think that in terms of the grand, the overreaching size of what the project's going to be, right? Because if you do an airline, yeah, like I said last class, you have clothes, you have hats, you have planes itself, you have airports, you have poster signage, you have tickets, you have all this different stuff that you can work your design into. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Anything? Ready to go through the presentation? Okay. So here is one that was done last time. Beep, bop, beep. Okay, Steam. Steam is a gaming app. A lot of people, know about it already. Here's how this presentation went. Okay. Questions to address. What's the app? If you want to literally steal these titles, you can as you get ready to build your presentation. Okay. Steam is a digital distribution platform developed by this company. This kind of talks about like what it is. Works on video streaming, social networking, matchmaking servers, and game stuff. Okay. Why they chose to do this? It's an app that's used fairly often. It's used for a feature known as Steam Guard, and also allows us to see games that are on sale or friends that are online. Wasn't a great explanation of why they chose it. It's kind of says why they use it. But I'd like to see why you chose it, because you feel that it can be improved in these ways. Same thing with a logo design or a company rebrand. The problems they found: the app looks old and outdated. Why? Just saying the app looks old and outdated assumes that the person that's looking at it knows what that means. Well, if I run Steam and you come in and tell me it looks old and outdated, I can just say, no, it doesn't, and send you on your way, right? It looks old and outdated because, or on the next page, say, this is why it looks old and outdated, but don't just leave it at this, right? A lot of apps look very questionable in places like a lot of the app looks questionable in places like Friends List. Again, what does that mean? There are a lot of redundant, unnecessary parts. Okay, I'm assuming you're going to explain that later. Many smaller problems, but to sum it up, we want the app to look better. Not a good sentence to have. Okay, there's a lot of problems, but basically we want it to look better. Well, that's kind of implied in the fact that you did a redesign. So you don't need like a redundant statement like that, right? Okay, innovations or upgrades. A store page, browser page, slide out menus, friends list, and an open window. So here are the additions. This is what the Steam startup page looks like. The event page, what the store looks like. And this is where it's hard to see. Let me see. Yes. So this is what the store looks like now. and then it has what their rebrand is. Now, make sure there's some type of label for it. So right now it looks like this. Then they go ahead and say, this is what it's going to look like. See, it's kind of hard to read through it. And I got to try to find out how they set this up. So I believe, I don't know the app. I don't use it. I believe this is what their redesign looks like. Okay. I think that's the logo that they wanted to make for, or is that their actual logo? Anybody know? See, we don't know this. So again, a problem with the presentation is we don't know what an actual thing looks like. Okay. But I think they wanted to redo this. Ryan, you had some input?
Yeah, I think that might be, well, so that in the middle, like that's the actual logo. I'm not sure. I don't know if the shield is new or not.
Okay.
I don't think so, but.
So, and all they did too was they just screenshot their phone with the app up. Okay, cool. Thanks, Elodie, Ryan. I think what they did is they just screenshotted what was open, and then they put it in Photoshop and then adjusted it in Photoshop and brought things into Illustrator. So I think this is new. Same thing with the books down here and then the notifications. And then with Store 2.0, how they changed it. They added some of these things. They want to have your user image up here, so it shows that you are logged in, and then you can scroll through some of these things. Having some of the information on here is really important, because if I am the person who's running the store or this app and I want to show it to some of my business partners, you can send it to me and I don't have to describe everything that you're trying to say. That makes sense. So make sure that you have that it kind of added on here. Okay, browsing. Now this is a better job. Okay, this is what the browser looks like right now, and what they had thought was it would look pretty bland. And so what they wanted to do was in their browsing, make it take up the entire screen, and then they can browse by genre. When you're checking your list, just go by genre instead. So you can click on action, adventure, indie, casual. So they had all these different categories you can scroll through, but they're separated by color, so it makes it a little bit easier to find. And then you can click on those. They've kept the bottom icons the same. Slide out menus. So this is what the slide out menu already looks like. It changes the whole page. When you go to the store, your menu, they said switching it up to have actual slide out menus where it comes over and you have different access like that, which I thought was a really good idea. It's a way to kind of integrate your design into the functionality of the app as well. So they're trying to address the issue of functionality as opposed to just the layout, but they are keeping it pretty consistent in its style and what it looks like. So understand the steps they had to take as a whole group. When you bring up your menu, when you click on one, it slides back, it turns darker in color. This one becomes lighter again, and you have all of your selections, right? Something really small, but it makes a big play in the app when we start working on it. Friends list, they were changing it like this. What were the big changes? I don't really recognize the changes other than in-game, offline, or online. So again, information so we can see what the difference are. So many ridiculous graphics here. Oh my goodness. Okay. And that was it. Okay, so we see issues. We want to answer the questions. I want to make sure we're listing how we're approaching those things. And then obviously do like a kind of a final, I would do a final wrap up of this is what our final app looks like compared to the original, maybe side by side, and say it is now brighter, more engaging, A, B, C, D, E, work through all of that stuff. Okay. Questions on, and again, I said I didn't show you a great presentation. Number one, because I can't find the good ones that I have, but also because, hey, Avari, how's it going? I see you. But also because I want you to be able to see what we need to change in the past example that we have. Okay. Cool. Questions that you guys have. I'm sure a lot of them will pop up over the next couple days. We're going to have I'm assuming 3 weeks to work on this thing. So it'll take some time. We'll do one more project at the end of the quarter. That'll be like our final individual project off of this one. But we're going to have a long time to work on this one because I'm expecting us to be putting in some good, solid time and effort in this. Okay. Avari, your group, you're with Ellie, you're with Giselle, and you're with Jonathan. Okay. So that'll be the group that you're working with. Ellie, Avari, Giselle, and Jonathan. And then from there, we're good to go. So you got first thing that we're going to do today, what I want you to do is 1:17. Awesome. We got like 30, 40 minutes left. How about what we'll do is I'll go through right now and I'll set up little breakout rooms for your groups to let you guys go kind of chat and hang out in. You can leave when you're done with it, but you guys need, what I want you to do today is figure out which app you want to redesign. You can do anything else you want to add to it, but the big one that I want to have you have finished up by the end of the day today is what app you're going to work on and how you're going to redesign. Or for Sydney, Aisha, and Ryan, what company you think you want to rebrand. Okay, so let me get those breakout rooms set up, and then I will let you guys get rolling.